Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice for radio, so today I am showing you a really quite unusual deck. But it's being played in tournaments, and it's being played online, and I think we need to talk about it. It's Talonflame, and I mean just Talonflame, nothing but Talonflame. So I suppose we'd better look at what Talonflame does. Now, Talonflame is a card that we've been using for a while, ladies and gentlemen. It's got this amazing ability that if it's in your opening hand, you get to play it down as your starting Pokémon. That's great. It's a stage 2 that you can play as your starting Pokemon. It's got free retreat, a resistance to fighting, and for 1 energy you do 40 damage and search for any 2 cards, which is going to really help you to set your deck up and get exactly what you need for the game ahead. It's really quite fun. People have been playing this in stuff like Greninja and Garchomp since it came out. But if you don't start with it, it's rubbish, unless, of course, you're playing stuff like Fletchling, and you can evolve up to it normally. Fun fact, by the way, if you play this deck, Talonflame is not a basic. So if your opening hand has a Talonflame but is rubbish, you can choose to take a mulligan rather than put Talonflame down. If you draw a Fletchling, you've got to play the Fletchling as your active. But if you only draw a Talonflame, you get a choice between keeping it or taking a mulligan and hoping for a better opening hand, which is kind of fun. And this is really all Talonflame is. Amazing starter, free retreat, great for helping you set up your deck, but let's face it, 40 damage a turn in the mid to late game is not going to be enough. So you play Talonflame Break. Talonflame Break actually turns Talonflame into a fire type, as well as putting the HP up to 170, you're talking GX levels here, and giving you a new attack, Flare Blitz. For 2 fire energy, so Aero Blitz, and then the next turn you Break Evolve and put a second fire, and let's be clear about this, if you start with Talonflame, you can evolve on turn 2. 150 discard all fire energy. Well, you pop a choice band down, you're now hitting 180. Pretty much all EXs are going, and your basic GXs like Drampa are going down as well. You could even put a Kukui into play, then you're hitting 200, and stuff like Espeon GX, most but not all of your stage 1 Pokemon are going down as well. Not to mention that being a fire type means that if stuff like Lurantis gets big, or Decidueye, which is seeing quite a lot of play at the moment, comes around, well, that's all right. You've got type advantage. There's a lot to like about Talonflame Break. Now, you're not playing many other Pokemon at all here, but there are a couple others. And by a couple others, I mean a couple others. The pre-evolutions. Now, firstly, you've got Fletchling. Now, if we have a look at Fletchling, there is only one choice. The best Fletchling is this one, allows you to draw a card, but it was in XY, so it was rotated. This Fletchling is, oh my god, adorable, but it's only got 40 HP. You've got to play this Fletchling because it is the only Fletchling that has not been rotated that has 50 HP. And there is a big difference between 50 HP and 40 HP, with Tapu Koko doing 20 damage to all of your Pokemon, with things like your Decidueye that can put 20 damage onto a Pokemon during your turn. 40, really bad. 50, still bad, but you know, it can survive a little bit. Now, the best Fletchinder is this one, because it can do 30 damage for a single energy. Most of them have been rotated out, unfortunately, but this one is the best option we've got. 30 for 1, not terrible. Bit upsetting that it is a colourless, not a fire, because it means you're not hitting for weakness. You're not getting a one-hit KO on something like a Rowlet. But what can you do, ladies and gentlemen? There's not much you can do. I do quite like this one from Flashfire, but it's been rotated. Boo, etc. Now, they're the only Pokemon you play. You don't play Shaymin, you don't play Tapu Lele, unless you're also playing Parallel City. so that you can play them down, then play Parallel City to discard them. This is a non-EX, non-GX deck. The goal is very simple. You force your opponent to KO 4 Talonflame, preferably Talonflame Break, and what is kind of cool here is that even though you get the fire typing on Talonflame Break, you don't pick up the water weakness because breaks don't change weakness. Yay! You are trying to make your opponent take 6 prizes the hard way, while you don't have to take 6 prizes the hard way, because you're trying to get one-hit KOs on EXs and GXs. So let's look at the other key cards you play in this deck. First of all, you've got to play Winona, and you've got to play for Winona. Winona allows you to search for colourless Pokemon, free colourless Pokemon, as it happens. Think of it like Bridget, but you don't have to go for basics, but they do have to be colourless. It won't get you the break, but it will get you everything else. You can't play 1 and Tapu Lele for it, because then you've got a 2-prize Pokemon that you don't want to be giving up. You might even consider playing Random Receiver here, because Winona is really big. Let's face it. In 50% of the games, you're going to start Fletchling rather than Talonflame. Well, slightly under, but shh. Because in theory, 4 Fletchling, 4 Talonflame, you should start one or the other. It's about 50-50. There are some games you'll start 2, etc. But let's just ignore that for the second. So you really don't want to be passing with just a 50 HP Pokemon in play. You need a turn 1 Winona here. So of course, Random Receiver's going to help you with that. As you're not always doing a huge amount of damage until you get the breakout, and as you can be searching for cards with Aero Blitz, you might consider playing stuff like Enhanced Hammer and Team Flare Grunt. Slow the game down a little bit, because if you can get your Talonflame breaks out, and you're hitting for 180 a turn with Choice Band while giving up 1 prize, your opponent is going to not be having a great game. You need to play Rare Candy here, but you don't necessarily need to play 4, because you can just play a bunch of Flichindas here, and let's not forget that Aero Blitz is going to help you, as well as is Winona, to get those Pokemon out, so you don't need the full 4 Rare Candy. You do need a bunch of Choice Band here. 150 and 180, there is a huge difference between them. One-hit KO on stuff like Yveltal, Darkrai, Drampa, you need Choice Band here. And to be honest, you could even, if space allows, consider playing an Eco Arm, just so that you've actually got a few more of these Choice Bands to play. Although do remember, we are losing that in the rotation. You might consider Max Potion here, because Talonflame Break discards all the energy, Talonflame attacks for 1 energy, you'll often have very few energy out, so why not take advantage of that with Max Potion? Now, I did say that you'll be discarding the energy with Talonflame, but one thing, and I don't say this in many decks, but this is one of the very few decks where I think you should be considering burning energy. Burning energy is a special energy, and that's a bad thing. It means that it is vulnerable to stuff like Drampa, Jirachi, Enhanced Hammer. Okay, I get it. But you use Talonflame Break, you discard 2 fire energy. Oh no, wait, they're burning energy, or one of them is. You don't discard the burning energy, which means that you can use this attack turn after turn. You can chain this attack considerably more easily. It is actually a deck I would really consider burning energy. Now you need to play stuff like Brock's Grit and Rescue Stretcher. I know you've got Talonflame that you can start with, but you've only got 4 true basics. You could really be struggling here, getting benched with your opponent knocking out all your basics. You need to recover them quickly. These cards are important. And if you want a stadium here, other than Parallel City if you're playing Lele, Silent Lab is a really good one to go for. Turns off Volcanion, so Volcanian's going to have a really hard time getting the KO. Turns off things like Shaman and Tapu Lele that your opponent is going to use to get set up. Could be an awful lot of fun here. And that pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, is the deck. It's a very straightforward deck. You want to start with a Talonflame, set up a whole bunch more Talonflames, break Evolve, get 2 fire energy on, and be hitting for 180 with Choice Band. It is an exceedingly linear strategy. You're going to be doing the same thing every game. You've got no other attackers. Maybe you'll occasionally Aero Blitz to search for cards, but the vast majority of the time it's get the Talonflame break, hit for 180. But when this works, you're hitting for 180, getting one-hit KOs, while your opponent is struggling to take 6 prizes on 170 HP Pokemon break. That could be an awful lot of fun. Personally, I think it's a little bit awkward and a little bit inconsistent, but you know what? This is a deck you should be having a play with. Maybe I'll play it on stream soon. Who knows? Go follow me just in case. Now, tell me what you think about this Talonflame deck. There's a comment section. Use it. Go nuts. Be nice. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy and Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio for some live action. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and if you want to support this channel, you can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. There are bonus pods to get. Go get them. The most important thing is always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.